As the sun was setting on June 4th, 2008, I stood there in the bathroom in a trance. The water from the shower turned thick and red on the floor as it gathered around the dying body of the man I loved. As I looked down at the work of art that I had created on his bathroom floor, I felt no shame. In fact, this was the moment I had been dreaming about for months. I'm Jodi Arias, and this is my story.
Arias was a woman known to be manipulative, deceitful, and lacked genuine remorse for her actions, the most obvious signs of a sociopath. Not only was she impulsive and violent, but she also meticulously planned every possible detail to escape the consequences of her heinous crime. But how did things get this bad?
So, I was born on July 9th, 1980 in Salinas, California. One good thing about my childhood was that I learned pretty early how to get what I wanted. I was different, and always knew that I was destined for something greater. School? That was a joke. I dropped out of Eureka Union High School in the 11th grade because I knew I didn't need it. I had bigger plans, and I wasn't going to let anyone or anything hold me back. I took on various jobs, but eventually I found my way into a sales position with prepaid legal services. Life was getting pretty boring, though. So, when I met Travis at a work conference in Las Vegas, Nevada, he became my brand new obsession. Travis was intriguing because he knew exactly how to use the right words at the right time. He caught my attention almost instantly. I made sure to let him think that he was different. Guys love that kind of attention.
Jodi and Travis officially started dating 5 months after they met, in February 2007. But they were a long-distance couple. Both of them were completely obsessed with each other, but everybody around them thought that something was deeply wrong with Jodi. Their relationship came to an end around June 2007, but Jodi wasn't going to accept that. She moved to Mesa, Arizona, to be closer to Travis and would show up at his house without warning. It seemed that she kept trying to rekindle their spark, but the two couldn't get past occasional sexual encounters. They were together on and off before Jodi decided to move back to California in April 2008.
Well, Travis turned out to be extremely disappointing. I thought I could entrap him with my charm once again, just like I had in the beginning. However, he liked his freedom too much. No matter what I did, he just didn't latch on to me. Yes, I was possessive. What's wrong with that? I needed him all to myself, and when I was, he should have had his sights on me only. Travis just couldn't handle the intensity of what we had. His friends didn't like me because they sensed something off about me. They thought that my behavior was suspicious, but I couldn't care less. They were just obstacles, nuisances that I had to deal with. They saw our relationship as unhealthy, but they didn't understand. They never would. Then came June 4th, 2008. I had spent 2 months thinking about what I needed to do, and I had made up my mind. So I went up to Travis's house in Mesa, Arizona. Everything was going well. We had sex, just how we liked to every time he saw me. But I knew this was the last time he would get to touch my body. Around 5 p.m., Travis was in the shower. Whatever happened next was all his fault. He had it coming. He thought he could play with me, use me, and then toss me aside like I was nothing. But he was wrong. What he didn't know is that I couldn't let him get away with manipulating me. I stabbed him uninterruptedly, at his throat, and then shot him in the head. I was just blindly going at him in the moment and never gave him a chance to fight back.
The brutal nature of Alexander's murder, stabbed 27 times, his throat slit and shot in the head, indicates a level of impulsivity and violence often associated with sociopaths. Sociopaths tend to act on impulse, driven by a need for control or emotional release without considering the ramifications.
His death was ruled a homicide and he was buried, but to me it was just the natural conclusion of what he had started. He was facing the consequences of his actions, but now I had to make sure that nobody suspected me. On June 4th, Travis had a conference call that he ended up missing, which led to the first alarm bells ringing. But I didn't care enough to notice. I only cared about saving myself from the aftermath of what I did. 2 days later, on June 6th, I left Mesa and headed back to California. I called Travis several times, left him voicemails, and accessed his voicemail system. Of course, I already knew that he was dead, but I had to act smart. I just wanted to make sure that I appeared innocent. When I returned the rental car on June 7th, it had been driven about 2,800 miles. The rental clerk noticed that the car was missing its floor mats and had red stains on the seats. But none of that mattered. The car was cleaned before the police could examine it, so they couldn't prove anything.
After the murder, Arias demonstrated calculated deception, attempting to cover her tracks by cleaning the crime scene, disposing of the weapon, and making phone calls to create an alibi. Sociopaths often see life as a game, where they must win at any cost.
But by the time it was June 9th, Travis's friends were worried. They hadn't heard from him, so they went to his house. His roommates hadn't seen him for days but didn't think much of it. When they finally got into his bedroom, they found the blood, the mess, and his body in the shower. Yep, I hadn't gotten rid of any of it. They called 911, and right away they mentioned my name. Of course they did. They told the dispatcher how Travis had complained about me stalking him, accessing his Facebook, and slashing his car's tires. But their words meant nothing. The police started their investigation, but I was always one step ahead. But then they found the digital camera. I thought that I had damaged it beyond repair, but even then, the police managed to recover the images. They saw the photos of me and Travis taken on June 4th, just hours before his death. That wouldn't have incriminated me, right? Well, there was a lot more inside that camera. They saw the last photo of him alive in the shower at 5:29 p.m., and the ones that followed, showing him bleeding out with my shoe in the frame. And then there was the bloody palm print on the bathroom wall with DNA from both me and Travis. I guess I'd have to admit, they caught me red-handedly. Now, you're probably thinking, I shouldn't have taken all those photos, right? Well, all I wanted to do was admire my work. But alas, the police ruined all my plans. On July 9th, 2008, a grand jury in Maricopa County, Arizona, indicted me for first-degree murder. 6 days later, I was arrested and then extradited to Arizona on September 5th. I pleaded not guilty on September 11th, and I told them different stories about what had happened. I mean, why would I give in without putting up a fight?
Arias had a sense of grandiosity and entitlement, believing she could outsmart investigators, the legal system, and the public. Her confident demeanor in court, despite the overwhelming evidence against her, suggests a belief that she was above the law. This is a very common trait among sociopaths, who often view themselves as superior to others and exempt from societal norms.
At first, I said I wasn't in Mesa on the day of the murder and that the last time I saw Travis was in March 2008. Then I told them 2 intruders had broken into his home, killed him, and attacked me. I could see them getting more and more confused with every new story, and trust me, I was enjoying it. But 2 years later, in 2010, I decided to change my story. I was getting bored of the same questions over and over, so I told them that I killed Travis in self-defense, claiming that I was a victim of domestic violence. I gave them what they wanted to hear, and I did it with a smile. The trial was just another game to me, and now I had decided that this was the story I wanted to stick with.
The trial commenced on December 10, 2012, with jury selection. Jody's attorneys accused the prosecution of excluding women and black people from the jury, but the judge ruled there was no bias. Opening arguments began on January 2, 2013. The prosecution tried to portray Jody as a jealous woman who attacked Travis after he tried to end their relationship. However, Jody's team had other plans.
My defense team argued that Travis had been abusive and that I had killed him in self-defense. But the truth is, I did what I had to do, because I was never going to let Travis get away with treating me the way he did. I took the stand in my own defense in February 2013, testifying for 18 days, and that's when I really got the chance to tell my side of the story. I told everybody about my survival story and let them know that I was the real victim. I talked about the abuse I suffered from my parents and told them everything about my relationship with Travis. I even let the court hear a phone sex tape where Travis described dark desires, and I played along, pretending to be the submissive one. I also told them all about Travis's disturbing urges, and that I was trying to help him. I got to express my perspective, and for the first time in the entire courtroom drama, Travis seemed like the monster he really was in my eyes. I showed the court my crooked finger, claiming it was the result of Travis's abuse, and I told them I killed him in self-defense after he attacked me when I dropped his camera.
Jody's perspective brought a brand new twist to the story, and so the conversation shifted to the issue of her mental health. The defense brought in a psychotherapist who testified that Jody was a victim of domestic violence, and they referenced emails where Travis's friends expressed concern that she might be his next victim. However, the prosecution wasn't going to let that slide. They brought in other women who had been with Travis, and they testified that they never saw any signs of anger or violence in him. If this trend did exist, why wasn't it seen elsewhere? Psychologist Richard Samuels testified that Jody was likely suffering from acute stress during the murder, causing memory loss. He diagnosed her with PTSD, but the prosecution tore him apart, accusing him of bias and questioning his credibility. They brought in another psychologist who diagnosed Jody with borderline personality disorder.
In closing arguments, prosecutor Juan Martinez had caught up to me, I think. He called me a manipulative liar, and my defense team asked the jury to put aside any personal dislike they had for me. I really didn't care what they all thought of me. However, on May 8, 2013, after 15 hours of deliberation, the jury found me guilty of first-degree murder. The aggravation phase followed, where the prosecution had to prove that the murder was cruel, heinous, or depraved. They determined I was eligible for the death penalty, leading to the penalty phase, which began on May 16, 2013. During the penalty phase, Travis's family gave their statements, but I wasn't moved. I focused on offering my allocution, pleading for a life sentence. Perhaps one of the most impactful things I did out there was this. I held up a t-shirt with the word "Survivor" written across it, claiming I would sell the clothing and donate the proceeds to domestic abuse victims. Well, sticking to my story worked out pretty well for me. The jury deadlocked and a mistrial was declared. The legal battles continued with appeals and retrials, but in the end, Judge Stevens sentenced me to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole on April 13, 2015. To me, though, it was just another chapter in the story I had written. I'm still here, still fighting, and I have no regrets. I did what I had to do, and I'd do it again if I had to. I was never going to let anyone control me, and I proved it.
One of the worst things that Travis's family had to face during the trial was just how adamantly Jody used the victim card. Not only were they mourning their son, but they also had to witness their dead son being constantly accused of being disturbed and an abuser. However, in the end, Jody faced the consequences of her actions and the full force of the justice system. She may have escaped the death penalty, but it probably brings Travis's family tremendous relief to know that Arias will be rotting in jail for the rest of her life.